came to win, I don't mean to offend. The greatest on the mic, mightiest with the pen. Losing never been a choice, but a line is the same. Ascending, word bending, burns, birth in the gym. Akin to the best, never aiming for less. Opposition so foul, got me calling for rest. Who's next to get bested? Mind, soul, and flesh is antithesis of mess. It's the pressure so clean. Hold on, you better catch a God, throw him blessings. Dreams manifest, did you get what I mean? God always had a plan, he created for me.
Hello, everybody, and welcome again to another episode of the Knight&Craig show. And no, I'm not Craig, so those of you who don't understand. Well, wait, I got it wrong this time. I was going to say, no, I'm not Knight, because I usually do that.
You are Craig.
So I am Craig. So I was like, well, who is he this time?
Wait a minute. We need to have a banner or another show about that. Who am I?
Who am I? That used to be some of the things I used to ask myself, a decade ago, but that's another story in itself. So we're not going to go there today. Well, since we flipped it around, jacked it all up, and we started it again, tell us, Shell, bring us where we were last week, and so we can get ourselves on track for this week. What are we talking about? What did we talk about last time?
Last week, we talked about what are you ignoring? And that show took some windy roads and turns that even we didn't anticipate, to the point that we're going to be talking about part 2, what are you ignoring, and the influence and the impact that we have on others, and equally important, the impact that we have on ourselves. So I'm excited about the conversation. That's a word that I use all the time. Let me see. I've been anticipating this conversation. I think that's a better word. I think I've been anticipating it because simultaneously behind the scenes, we've been talking about gratitude also as we enter into this holiday season. And yeah, so I wanted to start off with a little gratitude that I'm grateful for you. And I'm grateful that we get to work together. I was talking to my husband this morning and he's like, you on with that man again? And I'm like, okay, first of all, he's like, he's had you 4 days. And I'm like, first of all, it's an hour a day. And this week we've been grinding, y'all. So we're excited to bring this show with you to you. And I hope that you are enjoying the episodes as they come, because we are closing the season out pretty soon.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And when we were talking about doing this before we actually did it, and I'm realizing this is episode 11, and every time we do this, well, technically 12, I think, when we do the math, but we did a thing for. We did a thing. So it was like, I keep saying, man, we're really doing this. We're really doing this, and it's beyond that now. It's already done. It's already done. As they play, everyone else is kind of following along and catching up for what we've actually already done. And I think it's an amazing thing to do this. And I selfishly enjoy it probably as much, if not more, than the people who are watching, because I get a chance to have these great conversations with you. I get to have a life coach session for an hour a week. And sometimes, and in Steve's point, I had to have it 4 times this week, which is
4 times. I'm like, babe, that's not 4 days. That's 4 hours, like literally half of a day over multiple days. But I love that connection, and I love that he's excited for us too, and his interest in listening to the shows and giving feedback, or coming to our monthly meetings. I'm grateful for all of that. So I'm excited to see where all of this goes, and definitely for today's conversation, because our influence is really, really, really an important thing to consider as we connect with people, as we meet new people, as we reconnect or not reconnect. What impact did we leave in their lives? So you and I have been talking about that.
Well, I think that's an interesting place to start today, right? Where sometimes we don't realize our impact. And as a parent, I think I spend a lot of time being concerned about how my words impact my sons.
Yeah.
Because when I was growing up, as we all have issues with, our images and beliefs of how our parents were and what they said versus what we heard them say. And there's always a difference. And it took me a long time to come, just from dealing with parents and then even dealing with friends relationships and other things like that what people say is sometimes totally the opposite of what we heard them say.
Yeah.
And that's why there's sometimes I'll excuse me, I'll pause a lot more between my words and sift through and sort through because I want to be real specific with my language, want to make sure I'm real specific with my meaning so that there's as little misunderstanding as possible because it
Mhm.
makes a difference. Because if I say to you, hey, Shell, you look good today, you look beautiful. That's
Mhm.
one thing. But if I came off with a different one, say, oh, Shell, you look good today. There's a whole different meaning that can
Yeah.
actually come across when it's said or even heard from a passerby that didn't may not have heard the beginning of what I had just said. And it's really key to how it shapes relationships or breaks relationships. And that's really some of the things we're talking about because we really will pay for that later if we're left
Mhm.
with conversations and comments unclarified.
Mhm. So I love that you use that as an example of bringing in the parents and then what they say versus what they mean, and then our interpretation of it.
Yeah,
Because my mom does that. My mom will say, "You look really nice today," and the word "today,"
stands
it's
out.
like, "Have I
Mhm.
looked like crap before?" You know. So, and then one time, oh my God, she's gonna kill me. I've been doing a lot more public speaking lately, and I've been sharing these stories. And I always preface whenever I'm going to talk about my mom in this way, like she's going to kill me for saying this. So one time, Craigie, I was doing my hair, and right now I have braids. I'm in a protective style because I'm going through my journey. You guys will have heard about that already. And so this particular time, I had my I just washed my hair, and so it was nice and fluffy, and really my Farrah Fawcett was banging. And so I was like, came to church, and she goes, "Oh my God, now? What are you doing with your hair? It looks so healthy, and it doesn't look dry." And I'm like, wow, I do my hair the same way on every single Sunday. So it's like what I was learning is about her or people in general is a lot of times the way that we see people is
Mhm.
sometimes the way we see ourselves,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so it wasn't necessarily about my hair in that
Mhm.
moment, even though that was the impact. I was devastated that she thought my hair looked dry or brittle and that I was using a different product than she noticed. But more importantly, it was what was seeing me through her lens
Yeah,
meant that perhaps she, on days where she didn't notice my hair being the way that it was something
mhm.
that she might not have noticed about herself,
Right, right,
right?
right.
Or that feeling that sometimes we're not feeling ourselves, and then that becomes how we see other people. So I think that's always an interesting thing when I think about influence and impact, because we rarely see ourselves the way other people see us in the most positive ways.
Yeah, and that's tough too because even with how we view ourselves, a lot of us have I can speak for myself. I'm coming out of a season which feels almost like a lifetime of having
Hmm.
such a negative self-image, right?
Hmm.
And so when you feel that way, it may or may not have ever come from what anyone else says.
Yeah.
We allow sometimes that little voice that we may hear sitting on one side and say, hey, you look funny, or you're fat, or you're not so smart, and no one's going to want you because of XYZ. And so instead of us, like you mentioned, feeling ourselves and having that confidence, right? Because I think one of the episodes we talked about confidence is the new currency. And I know
Hmm.
I've used to live my life when I was in college saying, hey, confidence is sexy because if you can look like, you know, I don't know,
Be
15.
careful. Be
I know. I was
careful.
like, you can look like 15 times what other people think you should look, right? And if you were confident with that thing and walked it out like you believed
Yeah.
in your look, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It draws people. It makes other people go, huh, I may not have worn what they're wearing or wanted to look
Yes.
the way they look, but there's something about them that draws them and their perception then changes. They have a new value of your worth because the
Hmm.
worth you're projecting gives a value that's higher to someone else. And we need to get involved with that part, not to the point where it
Hmm.
becomes an arrogant
Hmm.
perception,
Hmm.
but we've
Hmm.
got to believe in what we're doing, what we're
Yes.
saying, what we're wearing before anybody else can. My
Yeah.
mom used to always say, you know what? Clothes don't wear people, people wear the clothes.
Hmm.
So if you're going to wear something that's a little on the edge of your own personal style, personal aesthetic, then you better wear it like, like you going down a runway in Paris or New York.
Your mom did that
You know
well.
what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
there's some stuff she used to put on. I'm like, well, what in the? But but she walked it out like, well, I guess it must be the right thing because I'm saying what the hell, but it must be more like what the hell, you know what I'm saying? Because she wearing it like it is everything, and I think that's what we need to do our life. We need to live our life in a positive way.
Yeah.
It's everything.
Yeah. Our words have power. And as we were talking just moments ago, I was thinking about the compliment or the backhanded compliment or,
Mhm.
what you're saying about your mom. And Maya Angelou's voice came to my mind. And that, we may not remember sometimes what people said,
Yeah.
even though words have power.
Yeah.
We may not even sometimes remember what they did, but we remember how it made us
Just
feel.
feel. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that, whew,
Yeah.
y'all already know I already have two things, so I'm not going to go there right now. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna push through the two things. But the way that we make people feel in our presence,
Yeah.
and there are certain people that we were talking about a mutual friend that we have, and how I love laughing. I absolutely love laughing. I love laughing with my brother. I love my sister, my siblings. We laugh like nobody's business. The siblings that I grew up with at home, and we will laugh until we cry. And so I love that about my friends and my sister friends. However, there are some people that when we're in their presence or they're in my presence, I guess I'm speaking about myself,
Mhm.
I feel drained.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is this? What is this that is zapping my energy? And I think that's something to be aware of also, that influence can go either way.
Yeah.
We can influence people to be inspired, or we can influence people to feel like going for a long walk on a short pier. And being aware of that energy is really important. I got that one from my dad. You can thank him for that one.
Well, I love that what you're saying because we used to call. I've learned recently that feeling of being drained like that can come from people being spiritual vampires.
Ooh, tell me more. I'm gonna create a
Because,
banner.
well, when you're discerning like us, right? Where
Yeah.
when you hear the term read the room, well, it's reading a room is not just as easy as walking in space and looking around. Like some people looking around my room, what's behind me. No, you have to come into a space, feel what's going on. What's the intensity? What's the intent of the room? What's the shift in the space?
Mhm.
Is it happy? Is it sad? Is there tension there? And is it belong in the room or did you bring it with you? So now it's in the room. So we need to understand what that looks like and what that feels like. There's sometimes we are really like those bug lights, right? Where
Mm,
flies, moths, mosquitoes, you name it,
mhm,
they're drawn to that funny colored blue white light and they don't
mhm,
know why. It's an
mhm,
instinctive draw. They're just pulled. And in most cases, there's something that traps or kills those bugs before they even come into contact with the light. So even with us,
mm,
we don't realize that we should stay on the inside of the protective barrier, Christ.
mhm,
Sometimes we pull that down, we go on the outside. So we allow all that stuff that's in the room to stick to us.
mhm,
And emotionally, sometimes spiritually, in using our discerning gift,
mhm,
it does make you tired like an athlete who's doing workouts in the gym or walking or running or lifting weights or whatever,
mhm,
rowing or swimming, whatever your athletic exercise or choice is, using that gifting that can
mhm,
make you tired because there's some folks that may think of us and say, man, when Michelle does this, it always makes you smile. I need to talk to Michelle or I need to text her because I
mhm,
need some encouragement.
mhm.
And you being discerning with clients, it's the same
Yes.
way, whether
Yeah.
it's coaching clients or
Yeah.
even corporate clients, because you're always looking for a way to better them, right? And leave a mark and be in a place where you're leaving a blessing for someone, not even thinking that you are, but you are, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so in doing all that, that is being sucked out of us energy wise. So people say, oh, I love the energy. I love your energy. Yes, you do.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you love our energy so much that you're
Yes, you
drawing on it.
do.
You're hard to use. And sometimes we get in churches, right? Whose church is dealing in spiritual gifting,
Yeah.
prophecy, whatever. They say, yeah, pull on the gift of the spirit. Yeah,
Yeah.
some folks are pulling on
Mm-hmm.
that energy because they
Mm-hmm.
want it in their own life. And so that's where I'm concerning. Where sometimes at the end of my day, I am like yourself. You just want to go curl up in the bed and put the blankets over the head and maybe turn on a mindless piece of content and lay there.
Yeah. I often say that I'm an extroverted introvert.
Yeah.
And so I got energy for days. And one of my girlfriends always
Mhm.
says, what are you on? And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like,
You know what
you
though?
do so much. What?
I'll call it I'm an introvert with extroverted tendencies.
Yeah, you are. But I'm not. I'm more on the opposite end of the extroversion of the true extroversion more so.
Yeah.
And I can go, 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 go. And like I can be on stage and I'm like, oh, you want to go out to eat? Oh, I just said something. You want to go out to eat? Yeah, let's go out to eat. Oh, let's get some drinks. Oh, you and then like, but as that starts waning, I'm going, okay, now I only want to be with who I want to be with.
Right.
And so that's my introvert part where it's like I don't even I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to do anything
Yeah.
at this point because it's probably 9 o'clock and I don't want to hear no judgment about it being 9 o'clock and my bucket is completely empty and I just want to snuggle with my little snuggle bucket. You know, I don't want to hear it because I've been up since, 6 and going with that energy and giving of myself. The other
3
thing that I
a.m.
thought about that you were saying, so I'm selective in my introversion when I get to that space where I want quiet or I want, mindless something.
Yeah.
There's only certain people that can be in that space
Mhm.
because that's recuperating for me. And so the other thing that I thought about was this dream snatchers. And so when you're talking about reading the room, sharing your testimony, living your best life and really walking in your purpose,
Yeah.
we have to be careful who we share our dreams with
Mhm.
as well. And though we may influence people down the road,
Yeah.
some people who as a dream snatcher,
Yeah.
they either will poo-poo on the dream because they don't get it.
Yeah.
They will try to take that dream and make it their own. Now, we know that they won't be successful in trying to live out whatever it is that is in our plan. At the same
Sure.
time, when those things happen, it goes back to the Maya Angelou thing. I trusted you.
Yeah.
I thought that what I was sharing with you, you were going to celebrate with me.
Yeah.
You were going to,
Yeah.
be happy for me.
Yeah.
Sometimes people just aren't happy if it's not them. And
Right.
so we have to be aware of that on this journey as we're actually walking out and behaving the things that we see in our minds. I also heard Steve Harvey say this morning on one of his shows, he said, if people actually get your dream, then you're not dreaming big enough anyway.
Mm. Yeah, I love Steve Harvey and for what he
Yeah.
does from a
Yeah.
positive encouragement part.
Yeah.
And I don't. I'm sure I'm not going to say it right. And if you after I say it, if you know the proper way it's said, please help me. But I know something that was it copying or duplicating or mimicking
Oh,
is the sincerest form of flattery.
yeah, it's imitation.
Thank you,
Yeah,
because and I used to have problems with that growing up,
I do. I
and I
still
had
do.
well, and here's the thing: what my mama say, to use my
Hmm.
best Bobby Boucher voice, uh, she
Girls, I did
say,
dabble.
yeah. My
Yeah.
mama used to say, if people want to copy what you're doing, then give them
Hmm.
something to copy
Yeah.
as a motivational point. Then, hey, if they're gonna do whatever you want, whatever you're doing, then put the level so high that they don't have any choice but to do something great. Because why copy something that's poo? Like we talked about last episode. Why copy poo? You know what I'm saying? If make it
You'll
be
learn more. You'll
famous.
learn more about poo in our next episode than any other episode
Ever.
you've ever watched, unless it is specifically about
Poo.
gastrointestinal uh, facts. Okay,
Yeah.
so stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I just
No,
pray.
I agree with that. I agree with I think my mom used to say, or someone, I don't know if it was my mom or not, but I remember her saying, you're only going to be a hot topic for a minute, right? Because there's someone that's going to do something in this case, because I eloped and my family was upset, when I was 19. And so she was like, you're only going to be a hot topic for a minute. So if this is the decision that you made, so be it, And I'm like, okay. She said, because somebody else is going to do something equally stupid or more stupid.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's how the news and media gets their information, because somebody's always doing something. So this was your moment, and maybe you didn't make the right decision, maybe you did, but you'll know in a minute. And so it's like, give people something to look at. What bothers me though with the imitation piece is my heart for definitely appreciating being an inspiration, because that's a part of why I do what I do. Is if I can do it, you can do it, right? I want people to do that in a way that is authentic to them, and not do something that I've done because I've done it and then it won't work for them.
Right.
So it's like the imitation, maybe it's like connecting that to how you would do it versus trying to do it exactly like me. You don't do that. I don't like that. So that's my issue with that. I think there's so much to be done, and there's so many ways to do things. I want to inspire people to find that within themselves, not be a carbon copy of what I'm doing.
Yeah, and I feel you. There's a way though when people are trying to find their way, because there's just an opportunity where people just don't have an original idea, or they just don't have an idea at that moment. They just want to, well, they're just being, right?
Yeah.
And if there's a way for them to kind of, if you're in a little boat with where there's a motor, they probably just don't know how to turn it on just yet. Or maybe they just don't know, even if they turn it on, where they're going to go. Sometimes if they're going to push away from shore and get to going, if they're following after you, following after me, I'm learning that for a certain distance, it's okay. Right.
Absolutely. I agree with you.
Because as we do that, I've used Steve Harvey, Stephen A. Smith, because another person, even Jake's to a degree, Tim Ross to a degree.
You talk about Tim Ross quite a bit.
Yeah,
that's probably a good example.
Examples of people when they're speaking, how they're speaking, how they run their platforms, what they say. There's no way in the world that I ever wanted to be like a Stephen A, because that dude there is only one Stephen A, one Steve Harvey, one Steve.
He's hilarious.
Even when I started doing just the podcast alone, the Raising Men show, what was that one guy that was the shock jock of nighttime talk? Howard Stern.
Oh,
There's certain aspects that I love about Howard Stern. However, I can't listen to Howard Stern long, because, like you said, he's always looking for the next hot topic, that button to push to provoke a response. I just want to find a part that's authentically me amongst those people that are positive, and take the parts that are not negative in me and go, "Ooh, I need to work on that. I need to pull that away. I need to do that." And let it become authentic. But to your point, there are some folks out there that, if Tim Ross is wearing different color glasses, like Sally Jesse Raphael used to do, for those older than me, different color glasses every single time. Or if someone wanted to be like Oprah, if Oprah was big Oprah, then they want to be big like Oprah. If they were small like Oprah, they would want to be small like Oprah. I mean, it's you can't be, like I said, a carbon copy. You can't be. If I wanted to eat cornflakes, that's cornflakes. I can't make oat flakes and sell it at the 99-cent store and make it look like oat flakes when it look like cornflakes when it's really oat flakes. Give it a new name. Don't sell a person something that's slightly different than the rest, but make it look like the thing that they think they're buying, because they tuned into something by mistake, or they thought they heard something that was like something they already knew. There's so much originality that in this world and in what God can give you, that you don't have to be a mimic, a duplicate of what someone else has already done.
That's exactly that you're spot on with that. because, okay, do I want to go here right now?
Might as well. Might as well.
Okay. Everybody knows that these braids are not my real hair.
They're not.
Right?
They're not.
No. This my hair is braided in here. My hair is cut in a bob. Y'all saw it in earlier episodes.
Oh, I thought it was just. I thought you just pulled it real hard and it just came out.
I'm gonna take back what I said about your brilliance in a minute. Because words have power, and I was so empowering you, but right now, but there are other enhancements or other things that people do that they put off or sell as real.
Yeah.
And then when you get home, you realize that ain't real. So I think that while it is important that we practice being the best versions of ourselves aesthetically, I think that it is also important that we don't lose ourselves in wanting to present that best version. I hope I'm saying this right and clear,
so let me
and
ask
not
you,
offensive to anyone.
Well, let me rephrase it in a way that helps me, because I can be your translator, you know, so because you're being nice.
Okay.
And I'm not always so nice. So
okay.
You want to be able to use the Instagram filters, not live the Instagram filter.
Yes, and for me personally, I don't use filters. That's me.
Yeah.
And I'm not even though I'm a Mary Kay consultant, I use that in a different way.
Sure.
In terms of being able through my organization to help women have a job that are coming out of terrible situations, or someone who just says, I want some passive income, but mostly to help those women rebuild themselves and then have a job that they can have. So that's my drive. And I love the vision and mission of Mary Kay. But when I take the extension hair off, I still want to see me. And I think sometimes we get caught up in that of we lose ourselves in the extension. We lose ourselves in the pseudo whatever. And it's not really resonating as a part of who we are because it's not changing the right parts of us.
Right.
And I think that influence, when we use the word influencer, like even in social media, that needs to be representative still of who you are.
Right.
Not just, like you said, the filter.
Yeah.
Because people, when they see you, I told my mom this too, when she became an author. My mom is not really big into makeup, although she will wear, powder to take the shine or a little gloss or whatever. That has not been a part of her journey. That's not something that she likes to do.
Sure.
And so when I told her, I said, Mom, but now that your face is on a book, polished, beautiful, it is who you are.
Yeah.
You can no longer go to Walmart in a muumuu and socks and sandals. Because right now, who people think you are and who you really are, you really wrote that book. When they see you, they'll be like, we're not having her come to our church to talk about nothing. She doesn't even, so you have to represent yourself in the most authentic way. I think I'm making sense.
It does. Because it goes back to what we even talked about before, is that we'll pay for that later if we don't.
Yeah.
If we don't really handle ourselves, show ourselves, and we just may have those moments where we may be like some of those actors and actresses. I just want to go around and get some coffee for Starbucks real quick,
and that's cool.
But at the same time,
be dressed. Be dressed.
Yeah, I ran out to FedEx yesterday, and I had some sweats on. They were new. They were clean. They looked like those yoga-esque type of capris that the younger millennials and the Gen Zs will wear. I don't ever wear them because that's just not my own speed. And I had a matching shirt with that. And I asked my 20-year-old kid, and I said, "Hey, is this presentable enough to go outside?" And I should have known because he didn't respond right away, but he took a moment, he assessed, and he says, "No, that's good enough. You're good." Because I'll have
Yeah.
moments when I'll wear some other sweats that used to be nice, but now they're
Yeah.
just like to keep warm, like on days like this, and
Yeah.
don't leave that. Maybe go to the mailbox, but don't go to mailboxes, etc. In that.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And that meaning
Yeah.
your mailbox should better be at the curb, not driving across town.
Yeah.
Because the when we go outside sometimes, even with myself, those who have struggled with self-image, body, and the shaming that we've allowed ourselves to come in agreement with, looking in the mirror can be a challenge at what
Oh
we
gosh.
see. And so with the clothing line that I'm releasing, my goal is to always make every person that wears it, specifically the men that wear it, feel special, feel wonderful, because there's many days that we don't. And mom used to say sometimes, I'm sure it's a popular phrase, sometimes you got to fake it until we make it. And I've modified that for myself, saying, you know what, I'm going to say it every day until I believe it. And then when I believe it, I'm going to say it with my chest. And that helps me when I wear my apparel, it covers my chest. And so what I'm saying, there's certain days I may not believe this, but the one day I do believe it, I'm going to say whatever I did with my chest, whether it be I am and follow with something positive. I'm going to do those kinds of things. And I think it's so important that we have that kind of view.
Absolutely. I tell you all the time, I start my days with affirmations every single morning. And when I go out and I take my kids to school and drop our son off at work or what have you, I'm not full face makeup.
Right.
So I don't want to give that impression that the fake it till you make it or the facade or what have. No, I'm like clear face, wash my face, brush my teeth. I might have sweatpants on, I might whatever, but I'm always thinking, if I saw me and knowing who I am, would I want to meet me that way?
Or I got one better for you. If I saw you with or without makeup on these shows, and then I saw you in the street and found out it was you, would I know? Would I recognize?
Yes.
And
yes.
that's the difference to me. Are we wearing a mask?
Yes.
With something that we're doing, like the Jason, what is it? Halloween. That mask that they wear in Halloween. That's oddly a William Shatner face. That people, I mean, seriously, and but yet when you take that off, there's a certain
Halloween is Michael Myers.
Michael. Friday the 13th is Michael Myers. Yeah.
Jason is.
I get them mixed up.
Okay, well, whatever.
I
William Shatner.
stopped watching them. So either way, whichever is the one that's got the blank mask with the eyeballs cut out and the lip slit.
That's Halloween. That's Michael Myers.
Okay, that's Michael Myers. Okay, good. That's the William Shatner mask. And people are like, "Well, how did you?" And I was shocked because I'd seen the face for years, and I never really thought about, it looked familiar, but it looked familiar.
Yeah.
And when they tell the stories, how did you wind up with that being what was used? They said, well, we needed a prop and what we needed wasn't available. And that was the only thing in the prop shop we really had we could use. So that had been the look from Jeff. And you know that man making money off of that?
Listen, this has been a mantra for me. Please. And I heard it before. Hold on.
I know you're going to put in the banner.
I am.
And the banners, y'all, banners are important to us because they're points we want to be important to you.
Good job. Use what you have.
Yeah.
That is the message. Use what you have.
Yeah.
You use what you have. I've heard this over and over and over resonating in my heart and in my mind to the point where I've added it as a part of what I speak. Yep. And so as the vision unfolds, well, Craig, you were here during the legacy event, our annual event, and we talked about vision, and we talked about what we want to do with our property and with the business, and we got to start with where we are.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important message as it relates to what we're talking about with influence and not wearing a mask or makeup or no makeup or sweats or jeans or whatever. Start with what you have.
Yeah.
What do you see right now?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then build toward what you're dreaming for in the future. I always say to myself, if I even when I get $1 million, I'm talking about $1 million in the bank, where I'm not saying I haven't made $1 million over my lifetime. I'm saying $1 million in the bank right now. What would I do with that? And if I don't have a plan for that money, my personal belief is I'm not going to get that money.
Right.
Because I can't be so far in the future that I'm not being realistic for where I am right now.
Right.
So I can plan for the million. Oh, trust, I'm planning for the million because I know I'm going to get it. And I know that if I don't believe it, I'm not going to get it. Right. But do I have it right now? No. But what I have is $100. So I'm going to use that wisely. What I have is $1,000. I'm going to use that with even greater wisdom and greater intentionality, because when we use what we have, we're saying that we're grateful for that.
But I think that's where it starts, though.
It does.
A lot of us aren't grateful for what we have because we don't like what we have, because what we have is not what we want. And what we have is not what we can see down the road or wish for or hope for or fantasize for, right? With having what we have, once we become thankful for it, because even when Jesus fed the 5,000 on those multiple occasions, he took what the meager bits, right?
Yes.
The lunch, a couple pieces of fish and some bread, right? Jesus gave thanks for it. Well, even before that, the person the young little boy that had it gave it graciously. He didn't say that the boy begrudgingly or was mad and complained. It's like, oh, here. And then, which means that Jesus didn't have anything. Because some of us think we don't have anything, but we have the clothes that even if our clothes were given.
Yeah.
Place we're living in given, borrowed, right? Even if our bus pass was given, whatever it is, we have to give thanks for what we have.
Yes.
First. And then he gave it to God to use, and then God multiplied it.
Yeah.
And so many other people were able to be fed that day and with leftovers. And when we then realize our impact on people and ourselves, if we really get thankful for just our life and what we're able to do right now, that's the only way we're going to be able to get to what's next, is if we're thankful for what's right now.
Absolutely. There's a scripture that says, if you are faithful over the little things, you're faithful over the small things, then there's an opportunity for you to be ruler over many. And not ruler literally over people, or could be, right? You can be a leader over multiple people, because that's the influence that we're talking about. This platform, we started off on Zoom, right? We started off on Zoom, and we were like, okay, well, I have a Zoom account and for my business. Okay, let's start there. We started with what we have. Then we said, okay, you said, well, aren't there better tools out there? We talked to a couple of people, we put our money together, and now we're on StreamYard, right? And now we're doing what we're doing with what we have. We're a season in, 12 episodes in, right? And now we have an opportunity to expand to servers across the nation and reach people in other countries, right? So we have to start with being grateful. We have to start with, like you were saying, we have to start with, okay, this is what we have. This is what I'm going to do with this, and watch it multiply, because we're walking in that authentic truth. We're being observant. We're being good stewards over what we have. And I think that that's a powerful, powerful way to exhibit our influence and to be the example. Not only the example because we know we're being the example, but being an example to ourselves that we realize what we're doing to have these doors and opportunities continue to open.
Yeah.
So it's important to acknowledge, yes, where we are, and it's important to acknowledge where we want to go. And so that distance between those two is where gratitude and listening intently and connecting with our purpose begins to close that gap, and we begin to manifest and realize those things that actually are further down the road.
I tell you, what you said reminded me of I think the greatest break and shift, break in my mindset or shift in my mindset towards what you just said, happened when I finally actually believed that it was possible to do what I'm doing. Because a lot of us don't have businesses, don't have books, don't have the songs, don't have the whatever we want, because we don't believe it. And the belief is centered in our worth and our perceived worth of ourselves. If we don't believe that we're worth it, I mean, there was a makeup company that was their tagline: "I'm worth it," or "You're worth it," whatever that is. And a lot of times we still don't believe it, and I think that's another reason why people cover. And I get it. There's some people who have medical conditions with skin and formations of our body and stuff that is a whole lot more faith and courage to stand there visually, right? I get it, right? Some of it was voluntary, some of it was involuntary, some of it was born that way, and this is what it is.
Right.
But no matter what, we've got to believe that what we have are the tools, like you mentioned, that we have to work with. Some people say, it's the cards I was dealt. I don't believe in that part. It was a part of the assignment we chose before we got here. And this is some of the stuff along the way that's a part of the assignment, right? And we've got to be excited about that. Sometimes we just got to breathe. Those who are in the sports, bite down on your mouth guard and keep it moving. Because it takes a lot sometimes just to get up out of bed. But once we do and believe that while I'm up, hell, I might as well be great.
Yeah.
I might as well believe in what I'm doing. I might as well go do whatever I'm supposed to do for today and be just for today and leave it.
What you're talking about too is that this idea that fear can cripple us or motivate us, because while there are some people who may not believe that they are may have different abilities or different exceptionalities that represent their body that they cannot change, whether that's physical, a mental, or some other form of differently abled or disabled, what is considered not normal or functioning. There are people that are breaking through that every single day because they refuse to let anything, a natural crippling, cripple them mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And so it's about what we want. It's literally getting clear on what it is that we want, and using the fear that shows up in all of us. I do a study on fear, and if you watch the retreat videos that I was just keynoting for, or co-keynoting with in Denver, I talked about the 6 fears that have been researched and have and I've been doing this for a year. I was just thinking about, I was grateful for that moment and thinking about how long I've been talking about the things that hold us back as it relates to fear. And then the 7th one I talked about before, about the fear of success and this feeling of unworthiness. We talked about that in different episodes. But there are so many fears, and many of us, we have more than one.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And I share this story about being afraid of spiders a lot. I share it a lot. My younger brother and sister played an evil trick on me, and they put a black widow in a container. I have no idea what I did to them. So I forgive y'all, because I got a lesson out of it. So thank you. But they put a black widow into a container and put it on my pillow. So when I woke up, that's what I saw. And I was freaked the heck out. Okay. And I can walk in a room now and be like, there's a spider up there. Could you get, and I'm so fixated on it. Like, could you please get the spider from up there?
Yeah.
Okay. Fast forward. Now I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I'm a business owner. You let a spider come near Caitlin or Taylor or Lawrence before they were old enough to kill the spider. Let it happen. And something rises up in me that I'm like, where's the shoe? I'm in strategy mode. Sorry, y'all, I don't do the cup thing. Somebody else can do that in my house. But if I see a spider, I apologize to our people who love those types of creatures. If Lawrence is not, Lawrence will come and get the cup and he'll do it. But if I'm in the house by myself and there's a spider by my baby, it could be a mouse too. It could be anything. Something rises up in me that goes into attack mode. And so what I started to learn as I started exploring this thing, number one, everything that we need is already inside of us. That's why it's important to use what you have. And so if I can stay in that hypervigilant state of that's a spider that's coming to attack my child, right? If I can tap into that, into that mindset, there is nothing that can stop me, and there is nothing that can stop you. But we have to recognize where that power is coming from, be able to access it when we need it, and then I don't want to say turn it off, but we can't stay in a super hyper vigilant, stressful state all the time. But use that fear to motivate you. Use it to say, I am not going to be defeated. Use it to inspire the change that you need to get to that end destination. But so many times we get stuck in the crippling. So I want to encourage us to not be crippled by the fear. Even if we have a moment of crippling, quickly realize that everything you need is inside of you to reach the goals and the destinations and the dreams that you actually have.
Yeah, that's a huge part though, because, you know, I have a situation where I remember as a young kid too, my brother, he scared me, but just standing at the end of my bed. There's something that's, I don't know if you watched another episode where something fell. We're getting ready to have one of those episodes here shortly. So I'm gonna mute here in a second and fix that before it falls.
Okay.
But I remember he stood at the end of my bed. I slept on the bottom of a bunk bed. There was nobody on the top, but I had bunk beds. He stood at the end, the foot of my bed, and there was only light from the back of from the doorway. And I would remember, because I used to have such terrible nightmares.
Yes.
And to this day, I can still remember that image of just the partial shadow of him that I saw. And I didn't know it was him until probably, what was it? Almost 20 years later. So I carried that fear of that dream, of that issue, of the unknown of what that was in my house, where my house is supposed to have been safe, especially as a young child.
Yes.
Home is supposed to be safe. So that safety was violated, right? And when I found it was him, it actually, there was a large part of me that broke my heart. And crushed. I used another term to that, it was shattered, not just broken. I learned today, I was watching one of Tim Ross's episode, him using that example that when you break something, you can put the pieces back together.
Yeah.
When things are shattered, you pretty much got to sweep it up and start over.
It's irreplaceable.
It's irreplaceable. So to use, I think, one of your terms, you have to find a way to start a new relationship with him. Because the old relationship was based on that incident when I was like 5. And I'm 54. But when I found out when I was 33, 34, that one of the people who I thought was supposed to be a protector scared me to death. Some of us have so many people in our lives that shattered their heart and their confidence in their thought of what their relationship should have been. And are even in the victim's mode, they're so busy trying to fix and restore that relationship, and you can't with something that's been shattered. When in reality, if you wanted another relationship with that person, you have to do just that. Have another relationship that's totally brand new. And that can be hard. And I'm not suggesting that we all go do that and go find our oppressor or a molester or whoever did something negative to us. I'm not saying go be the one, but I'm saying, but if the Lord is leading you in that way, if you still feel some kind of way when their name comes up or if a text comes across or you see a picture, if you're still triggered, maybe it's not the right time. But if it ever becomes the right time, we gotta really do our best to remember that we swept up all the parts of our heart
Mm-hmm.
in a can and we threw that away.
Mm-hmm.
So that relationship really doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
It's going to have to start from new.
Yeah. I thank you for sharing that story. We talked about in a previous episode around the apology being a
Yeah.
way to let go
Yeah.
and move on with whoever that person is in a new relationship,
Mhm.
and what happens when we don't get the apology. And we talked about forgiving ourselves.
Yeah.
I shared in also in a vulnerable moment at the conference, the retreat I was telling you about in
Mhm.
Denver. And one of the stories that I talked about, we talked about ripping out pages of our life, chapters of our life that now we know they made us, right? They made us who we are today. However, they were so painful to go through. And one of mine that I shared was being molested. And not only myself, but my brother and another one of my baby sister, different people, different circumstances, different experiences, but nonetheless, that safety was violated. That safety within our home, within our heart, within our mind was violated because in each instance, it was someone that we trusted and that our parents trusted
Yeah.
in our home. So that type of shattering,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. It's irreparable in the way that if we allowed that to hold us and not get to the point where we realize, like, okay, this happened and it wasn't my fault.
Right.
The process of forgiving ourselves, even if we never get that apology, because quite frankly, in my case, I'm not looking for anything from that person. I can hear that person's name, I can see that person, and that is what it is,
Yeah.
if you will, because I understand that it wasn't my fault. But what it did to me in a moment in time was it made me lose respect for men,
Mhm.
for not understanding the power of what a marriage should be.
Sure.
Because of that violation, carrying, like, you're married. That's not what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
This is not right. So it made me lose respect for that person,
Yeah.
and in some way sent me on a path where, in some ways, it shattered my self confidence
Yeah.
and made me lose respect for myself
Yeah.
until I realized again that apology to myself.
Yeah.
And we talked in our next episode. Well, we talked about in one episode about using things, using tools to
Yeah.
overcome certain aspects of our life, or patterns in our life.
Yeah.
And one of those that we discovered was one that deals with the psychology of addiction. And you might be saying, well, how is this related to addiction? It's related to addiction because sometimes we find replacements for
Yeah.
the apology.
Yeah.
We get into behaviors, whether it's alcoholism or drug addiction
Mhm.
or curiosity or promiscuity.
Yeah.
And so we have to
Yeah.
begin looking through this lens of, how do I avoid that?
Yeah.
How do I, when this comes up for me, how do I deal with it? But then how do I avoid putting myself in a position where that negative response becomes my default pattern and response? Case in point, I have no respect for men. So instead, in this case, I do have respect for men now after I'm healed. But in this scenario, I
Sure.
have no respect for men. I want to do what has been done to me. Hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
So I'm going to become a chronic cheater.
Yeah.
I'm going to become a chronic liar. I'm going to be try to numb myself with alcohol and drugs, for
Yeah.
instance,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
How do I escape those thoughts? How do I avoid putting myself in situations once I realize that that's my pattern? That's what we're talking about. That's
Yeah.
what we will continue to talk about in all of our shows as a way of healing. But you had some interesting ones, Craigie, that came up for you on the path of sobriety.
Yeah.
That's very similar to addiction and overcoming that.
Yeah. So I wanted to take just slight modifications to some of the steps in the 12 steps to sobriety. So those of you who are sober, whether it be hours, days, years, I definitely congratulate you and continue to encourage you to stay on that path.
Absolutely.
But I've modified some of the steps. And one of the steps, we need to admit that we're powerless in our life and to change anything, which some of us think we got it unlocked. We whatever we want to do is what we want to do. But we really don't have that kind of power. Also need to come to believe that a power greater than ourselves could or can restore us. And if we believe and ask that power to forgive us, for us in our belief system, it's God. So we ask God to forgive us. He has the power to restore anything and everything that we've done to ourselves, to other people, as long as we are truly apologetic and don't have a plan to go back and do those things anymore. That's the difference. Some folks apologize, but they don't have it to
No intent of
intent to
changing.
change. But we're talking about intent to change, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also, make a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Because this takes us out of the game. It takes us, oh, I made a bad choice. No, follow God. He'll show you everything from when to take out the trash, from when to clean the bathroom and the toilet. And I mean, people say, "Oh, does God tell you to clean the toilet?" No, but He does give you the discernment of when to move, how to move, and how to get things done. Trust and believe He does. So, gentlemen, if your wife or your girl says, "Put that toilet seat down," you know that you left it up. And I'm just saying, my kids, if y'all watching, do your dishes or pick your. I'm sorry, I digress. That's my love language. Acts of service. I'm sorry.
This just got really personal.
I know, but that's what we here for. That's what we here for. Step 4, I think, is key.
Yes.
Fearlessly. Oh, I have a typo here. Sorry. This is supposed to be fearlessly take a moral inventory of ourselves. So let me correct it so it makes sure it's right. Fearlessly take. And I apologize for the typo. This is for real for us. We don't try to
No.
fearlessly take a moral inventory of ourselves. There's
Yes.
stuff that we are and that we have that we do that just aren't right. That just aren't healthy. And it's okay. Doesn't make us bad people. It just made us people who made a decision at that time to do those things.
Yeah.
Okay, let's make a change. Let's give ourselves the grace to be able to have said, okay, today I'm not going to do those anymore. Or for this moment, I'm not going to do those anymore. And so when we find ourselves falling, we can give us some grace to start again. The last step here is to take accountability for our wrongdoings.
Yeah.
And in the sobriety steps, they talk about going out to make amends.
Mm-hmm.
And in some cases, you can and
That might
cannot
be
do that.
necessary.
And it
Some
may be
cases.
necessary,
Mm-hmm.
but it has to start with our accountability in
Yes.
every situation, whether we are a 0 fault or 1% or 100% at fault. We have to own up to our part, at least in here and in here first. And I tag onto this one that they showed that you shared with us in a previous episode. I love this. When we have those moments when we're trying to, deal through these steps and become better people and not fall victim to ourselves and our poor choices, it's dead. It's just delay the choice we're going to make.
Yep.
Sometimes we have to escape the situation that we find ourselves in, meaning get out of it, get out of the room, move if you can. And escape in the purest, most essential point of the term.
Yes.
It's a matter of life and death right now to get away from some of these situations. Even avoid being involved, or whether it's being around a person, being in an environment, whether being in the same vicinity. Get off the X in certain cases, get out of the blast zone. Sometimes for some of us, we can't be in the room with our accuser. We can't be in the room with a certain person we have a certain feeling, whether it be romantically or angrily about. Even if it's alcohol or drugs, you can't be in the same vicinity. Change the space. Get out of the room. We talked in a previous episode about being an inch away from the poop, but it still smelled like poop. Sometimes we find ourselves being in the same vicinity and proximity in arm's length because it makes us feel good. And this is to avoid it with all cost. Sometimes we need to distract ourselves when we have our minds going in a certain way. Let's think about something else. I don't need to keep fostering that thought that's making me want to go do what I don't want to do. Let's do something. Turn the TV on, turn the radio on, leave the house. If you need to shake like the dog does and shake out that nervous energy, whatever you got to do, find a distraction. Some of us even have a way where there's even pain management. If you prick your finger or pinch yourself, sometimes you have to, even with dog training, when you find a dog that's fixated on one thing and they're no longer listening to commands, that's why the shock collars are used and the collars with the prongs are used, because you have to turn that primal animal back into your pet and get their attention. And some things, the distraction just needs to be happening long enough to get our attention. And lastly, substitute. Sometimes we have to substitute what we were having struggles with or addicted to with something else. not to become addicted to the other thing, but just a substitution for it. Smokers may choose gum. Alcoholics may choose water. I don't know, but we have to be able to make these steps and strides to become a better person.
Well, I appreciate you teaching my lesson today
I'm so
because
sorry. I'm sorry.
I was a great teacher at teaching you that.
Yes, you were. Yes, you were. You do an amazing job. And that's another reason why I love this show, because I learned so much from you.
Man, sincerely, everything that Craig said is absolutely right. And I love the flow of that because they are in such lockstep with where we are. And most of all, we have to understand that when we take control and we influence our own lives in this way, that is the most powerful example that we're going to be when we're walking out what we're preaching and what we're teaching or what we believe. That is when we have the greatest influence. And so, wow, this another one.
Yeah.
Another one. Follow us on our social media at Knight&Craig. Be sure to spell out the and. And if any time you have feedback, comments, show ideas, you can always reach out to us at the Knight&Craig show at gmail.com. Send us an email. Make sure you share and like all of the podcasts that we're doing. And again, if you have a show idea, you want to be a part of a show, or you want to hear us talk about something, make sure you reach out to us. We appreciate you all. Give yourself the same grace that you continue to give others. Have a great day.
I came to win, I don't mean to offend. The greatest on the mic, mighty is with the pen. Losing never been a choice, but a line is the same. Ascending word, bending verse, birth in the gym. Akin to the best, never aiming for less. Opposition so foul, got me calling for rest. Who's next to get bested? Mind, soul, and flesh is antithesis of mess. It's the verses of read. For long, you better catch a God throwing blessings. Dreams manifested, you get what I mean? God always had a plan, he created for me. Success only means that I did what he seen. Got the game